Husbands need to learn how to be more empathetic. It's the key to connecting deeply with your wife, and it's going to build more trust, confidence, and intimacy in your marriage. Today, we're going to be talking about ways in how husbands can become more empathetic and learn to build that trust, confidence, and intimacy in their marriage. Welcome back to another episode of the Husband Coach's Corner. Today, we're talking all about empathy. Before we get too far into that, I just wanted to let everyone know every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's when we're going to be releasing all of these new videos. And if you're on YouTube, and this is also when the podcast is going to go live wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for those of you who have been listening already, and I look forward to continue producing these every single week for you, so that way you can grow and learn how to love your wife every single day. If you're new here, the Husband Coach's Corner and the Husband Coach channel on YouTube, we're dedicated to helping husbands learn how to love their wives every single day. I myself, at the time of this particular recording, I've been married for 13 years to my wife, my high school sweetheart. Hasn't always been perfect, and that's what the crux of this channel is all about, helping husbands recover from situations that are tough. If that's something you're interested in, consider subscribing or just listening to the podcast. You can send me a message at husbandcoach2020@gmail.com, or you could go ahead and leave a voice message on the Anchor dashboard, and then you can also leave a comment down below if you're on YouTube, or if you want to go over to YouTube, search the Husband Coach, and then write down in the comment section of any of the videos. I monitor those and I do reply to those. If you've been hanging with us for a little while, last week we had the drill of spending quality time. I recommend that this just become a normal routine for you and your wife. Spending time with your wife is so important. I hope you guys all had a good week with practicing that and incorporating it into your daily lives. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and read the definition that I wrote down for empathy. Empathy is understanding and relating why your wife feels what she feels. That's it. In simple terms, empathy is relating with your wife and understanding, and then connecting that to a feeling that you have. Our common response is sympathy, and I'll go ahead and read the definition of sympathy for you. Sympathy is being compassionate towards the situation. So the difference between the two is, one is you're gaining understanding on why she's going through the situation and why she's responding the way that she is in the situation. And then you're learning to connect with her on a deep level. That's empathy. Sympathy is looking at a situation and going, oh, that sucks. I understand that sucks. And then that's it. That's where the connection ends. To learn to be more empathetic, I have a few steps here, and then we have the drill and we'll wrap it up. As stated before, learning how to be more empathetic with your wife is going to help you become a better husband, but it's going to build the trust, confidence, and intimacy that you so desire in your marriage. If you're listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube channel, you are a husband looking for ways to develop that teach you how to love your wife, and being empathetic is one of those ways. What you have to understand is both you and your wife had an upbringing. It may not be the same, it may be the same, but the thing is, you brought both of those things into the marriage, and empathy is the only genuine way to learn what those things that are deeply rooted in her upbringing are. If she had insecurities growing up as a kid, the only way you're going to learn that is when she has an episode of some sort of insecurity. You're going to be able to talk to her and find out where she stands with that. Let's go ahead and unpack this. The very first thing that you have to do whenever a situation arises is don't default to sympathy. You want to default to empathy. Now, how do you do that? When the situation comes up, go into learner mode. Ask yourself these questions. What can I learn from my wife in this exact moment? Am I defaulting to feeling sorry for her and dismissing the fact that this does bother her? And then the last question that you want to ask yourself is, how can I connect with my wife in her current state at this exact moment. That's a question of time and situation, because sometimes you're not going to be able to connect right away. And you just have to understand that about your wife. She wants to connect with you, but sometimes she's not open and available depending on how deeply rooted this situation is. And that's why it's so important that you are consistent with being empathetic towards your wife, because then she understands that you're being genuine. Consistency is important in almost everything that we do, aspects of our lives. So it shouldn't be a surprise that consistency is important when it comes to building your relationship with your wife and being consistent with the way that you treat her. So here's the deal. You want to make sure that you make yourself available 90% of the day. All right, I get it. We all have busy schedules. We all have work. We all have something. We got kids. How can you make yourself available for 90% of the day? Especially if you're an ambitious person like myself. I like to do a lot of things. It takes time to run this podcast, edit videos, things of that sort. But I still make myself available to my wife at least 90% of the day. And I have a full-time job that is extremely demanding. The way I do that is, if my phone rings, then I pick it up, especially if it's my wife. And now if I'm in an area where I'm just not able to pick up the phone, then I check my phone. And if my wife called, then I pick it up, or I call her back, or I text her. I make myself available because I don't know what's happening, especially if you work away from the home. But when I'm at home, there's only a certain amount of time when my wife knows, like, hey, I need to leave Chris alone. Now, that time is very specific. It's my worship time. I'm a believer in Christ, so I need time to read my word. And it's not that she can't come in during that time. It's just that's a very personal time for me. Now, any other time, she is more than welcome to come into my office right here, or stop me while I'm watching TV, because, I love my wife more and will spend more time with my wife than the 15-30 minutes of that episode. So make yourself available. Be open to stopping whatever you're doing. And if you do get into an engagement, set some decent ground rules, but don't block off more than 10% of your day from your wife. The next thing you want to do is you want to stay away from judging the situation. When you judge a situation, you instantly remove her feelings. Or if you start judging a situation, you jump to a conclusion, and that's going to ultimately lead you into the one thing that you don't want to do, which is you try to fix the problem. If you don't hear anything else, do not try to fix your wife's problems. Or your wife doesn't want you to fix her problems unless she says, can you help me fix this? When she goes into a situation, it's like something built into us. We have to fix problem because we don't like when our wife is crying or when our wife is hurt or upset. But that's not what don't do that. Don't jump to, I'm going to fix the problem. Instead, what you want to do is say, okay, I'm here. What can I learn? How can I connect? And when can I connect? Is this the right time for me to connect? Or is my connection just going to be me listening? Because us listening is extremely important. And then we can go deeper once we listen, because she sees that we're there and it's a level of connection, and then she invites us in a little bit further. And that's when you can truly start to work on becoming empathetic, which is understanding what got her to that place, so you can start asking questions about how this made her feel, or what triggered the emotion, what triggered the situation. And that's how you start to say, okay, I get it. You're going to run into a situation where your wife has a deeply rooted issue, and you get to become more empathetic. You hear what the issue is, but you don't have a feeling to associate back to it, because you may not share the same feeling or have an experience that's like the one that your wife is going through. But as her husband, what you can do is say things like, I understand how that's something that could upset you. I'm here to help. I'm here to listen. I'm here to comfort you. What that's doing is, one, you're acknowledging that your wife has something that is truly troublesome to her or bothering her, but then you're making yourself available. And that goes back to my first step, which is you have to make yourself available. And it's not going to be easy at times. It's going to come natural to others than it is for other people. It didn't come natural for me, guys. So I understand it not being the first response, because, you're going to be in a situation. I don't like tears. I don't like crying. I don't cry. I don't like whining. So as soon as my wife or my children start to cry, I instantly say, okay, where's the nearest exit? And I'm going right out the door. I have learned that that is not the best response. In some situations, maybe it could be an okay response, but the better response is, what can I learn from the situation that I'm in right now? And how can I connect with the person that's crying or the person that's hurt? Because sometimes it's not even tears. Speak to her, have a conversation. Let it take as long as it needs to within some confines, because I understand you're not going to be able to do everything that you need to do if you're sitting there talking to her all day. So the final step here, very, very important, is follow up in a timely manner. After the situation has happened, after you've connected on some level of empathy, then you want to give whatever is appropriate, be it a day, 2 days. I would say no more than 3 days. No matter how difficult the situation was, follow up with her and just say, hey, a couple days ago or yesterday, we talked about this, and I just want to see how you're doing with that right now. Guys, this is the key to showing your wife that you are genuinely caring and loving for her. She's not going to know what to do. My wife didn't know what to do for a little while after I started applying this, especially since I was the guy who didn't want to deal with tears and ran away as soon as I possibly could. And man, it took me about 10 years to learn this. So if you are within that 10-year window, or if you just haven't learned it at all yet, hear me on this. You want to be empathetic towards your wife because you want to understand what she's feeling so you can connect with her on a deeper level. After the situation, you want to follow up and make sure that that follow-up is so genuine that it catches her off guard. And that's not necessarily what we're trying to do. We're not trying to catch them off guard. What we're trying to do, and what we will be doing by following up, is building that trust, confidence, and intimacy. And when you start building those three things in your marriage starts to thrive. Your marriage starts to just genuinely build up and get stronger and stronger and stronger. And before you know it, your marriage is going to be thriving. It's important that we incorporate intimacy. We lead in the marriage as the husbands. That's just the way it is. So embrace it and enjoy the role of being the husband in the relationship. We have to lead it. Present and empathetic is this week's drill. What you're going to do is pay attention to your wife. Whatever she's doing, how she's doing it, where she's doing it, when she's doing it. You're going to pay attention to her feelings. And you're going to say, okay, can I connect to her on her feelings with this today? You may or may not be able to do it. And understand, empathy is not always going to be used when your wife is sad. I know that that's the explanation and situation I gave earlier, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you're going to find that your wife is going to be in a good mood, and it's like, okay, well, how can I be empathetic and learn something and connect in this situation? And those are fun, those are probably a little bit easier. So if you can find more of those, that's going to give you the practice. So when you have to get into the real situations, the deeply rooted situations, then that's where it goes. All right. What you're looking for is a response to a situation that would be different than how you would respond. whatever that looks like in your relationship, if your wife responds to a situation differently, then that's where you want to say, okay, how can I learn and understand what led to my wife responding in this way? And that's how you're going to start to spar with empathy with your wife. And that's it. You're just going to pay attention to your wife, find out how you can be empathetic, and then become empathetic. So let's wrap it all up. Our wife needs us to be empathetic. There's no getting around it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Our wife needs us to be that. You need to be that for your wife. When you do that, you're going to build those 3 things that I kept saying over and over again that are going to build your marriage and give you a thriving marriage. All right? That's trust, confidence, and intimacy. Look, guys, I hope you found some value in today's lesson on empathy. If you did, and you're on YouTube, go ahead and smash the like button. I want to know in the comment section below, 1, how did the drill go from last week? And 2, how often do you find yourself having to be empathetic? My contact information is in the description box below the video on YouTube. But if you happen to be on a podcasting platform that allows for rating and reviews, please go ahead and give this podcast a review and a rating. It just helps us grow and connect with other husbands across the globe that are struggling in their marriages or just looking for an opportunity to learn how to be a better husband. Guys, until next time, I want you to find a way to love your wife every single day. Peace.